I'm Patrick King, and this is SYNTHWAVE Ultra. My guest this week takes a slightly different approach to synthwave, creating emotional atmospheres and soundscapes reminiscent of cloudy days and finding beauty in the melancholy. Combining this naturalistic style and aesthetic with slick modern production methods, he has developed a sound unique to his own. Please welcome this week's guest, Jacket. Okay, so I'm here with Jacket. Thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having me, Patrick.
Yeah. So how did you get started in the whole synthwave retrowave thing?
That is kind of it's a tough question. I mean, I've been listening to the genre for probably 7 years or close to it. I remember hearing, I think it was Laserhawk, just kind of randomly on a YouTube mix back when I used to work my old job, and I just fell in love with it. And it was kind of it clicked with me because me and my friend, who I've always made music with, I feel like that was the music we wanted to make, so we just hadn't discovered it yet, and that that other people were already making that kind of music. So that just kind of opened a door to a ton of other stuff, and just been listening, in one way or another since then. But, as cliche as it sounds, it was actually hearing the Midnight for the first time that really clicked for me. That was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think. And that same friend, we'd always gotten into the habit of sending bands back and forth that we thought the other would really like, kind of based off of the synthwave descriptor. And he sent me that, and I was just blown away. And I think after that, I kind of tried to make a more concerted effort to make synthwave. At the time, I was really just doing metal. I'd been in a metal band for close to 5-6 years at that point, and kind of wanted to do something different. So that was really what kind of inspired me, and I started producing little things on my own. And then eventually, me and that friend hooked up and created Tom Celica, which some people may be familiar with, and that was how I got started.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. It definitely seems like that's a lot of people's entry point is the Midnight, Laserhawk, because I know that those were definitely some early ones for me when I was first getting into it. Because I first heard Perturbator and Lamados, and then exactly right. I think Laserhawk's Redline and the Midnight's Nocturnal was one of the first things I heard from them. So yeah, exactly. That's really cool. Just because you can see how that's kind of not. I guess it sounds kind of productive. It's sort of a baby's first synthwave sort of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely look back on it like that. And yeah, it's funny. I'm sure that the pathology for a lot of different people is probably similar in a lot of ways. There were only so many groups or producers in the scene, back 10 years ago or whatever it was. So I think a lot of people had those same sort of entry points. And then, bless their hearts, the Midnight were the ones who kind of blew things open and showed that it was possible to bring this kind of music to a much more general and broad audience. And then that's, I think, when you really start to see the scene kind of start to thrive. And, everybody wants to make synthwave, I feel at this point in time. But yeah, it's probably similar pathology for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of to what you were saying, the synthwave community, I think is really cool because it is still, it's definitely gotten pretty big in the last couple of years, but it is still very, very niche and kind of I guess kind of insular, where
sure.
It's one of those things where most people know each other, or at least aware of each other, which is pretty cool. I mean, I feel like that's it's a good way for people to develop working in interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, just this morning, I tweeted that, I love making this kind of music but it's really like interacting with everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and getting to know them over the past, however many, few years since I've really been active in the community, and just getting to watch their lives and comment and get into discussions with them. Like I think all the friends that I've met through the music and through this community have really been what has kept me coming back, really, and it's kept me passionate about writing more music and excited to write more music, because it's cool to know that it could be a niche group, but it's cool to know that there are people out there who genuinely care about that type of experience with their music. Yeah, they'll be there to listen, I guess.
Yeah,
There'll always be someone there to listen, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, it's beyond cliche at this point, but the whole synthwave is dead thing, I mean, that's couldn't be further from the truth.
I would tend to agree. I think that it's going through a revolution. Things are kind of cyclical. I think that we have a lot of the bigger artists that have cemented themselves there, like Carpenter Brute, Midnight, Gunship. They'll probably be fixtures for a while, as long as they continue to make music. But I think in the sort of tier below that, in the middle tier, there's a lot of room for old people to leave and new people to kind of come in and fill those spots. Mm-hmm. Kind of the old guard switching out for the new guard, I think. So there's really just this burst of artists coming onto the scene, and there's some really special people there making some really awesome music. So I definitely do not agree with that sentiment. I'll say pretty concretely. I think that there's something to be said about how pop music is kind of, I'll just say cannibalizing it, for better, or, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. And on some levels, that's really awesome, because it means that there's that possibility that people on that really large scale are kind of looking for that same kind of sound. They just haven't heard it either yet, just like I was looking for a certain sound, and then I found it, and I knew it when I found it. So artists like, we'll just say The Weeknd, has obviously kind of adopted this, retro sort of feel recently, and that has its own controversy, of course. But yeah, I think instead of producers at our level or the middle level, getting the chance to say, I got to work with The Weeknd, artists like that are kind of just taking the sound and doing their own rendition of it, and no one's really like necessarily reaping the benefits of that quite yet. I think at the level that I'm at. So I can see where somebody might look at that happening and say, throw their hands up in the air. Oh, we're doomed. Pop artists are making synthwave songs now. And mm-hmm. I think it's really cool. I really do. I think that it's cool to know that there is a broader appeal there, but it's complicated. But I think right now we're thriving, and some of the best artists that I listen to, like, on a daily basis, are some of the ones that have only been around for a year or 2 years. So I definitely think there's a lot of awesome talent to be found.
Yeah, for sure. Just like you said, like, it is really cool when people just like burst onto the scene like that and just immediately make a splash, because there's definitely been a lot of that just in the last, even just in the last year or two, which is always really cool. And then like you see them just like grow and develop as artists, and like like you see them develop musically, and then also like within the scene, they develop they grow their statue and all that. Yeah, exactly. Got kind of a little tongue tied there. But yeah, exactly. And plus too, like what you're saying with it, I don't want to necessarily say co-opted, but like I remember when Blinding Lights from The Weeknd came out, it's like, oh wow, like synthwave's gone mainstream. But on the one hand, like I know people were like you said, kind of like, oh, it's gone mainstream, it's gonna get homogenized, whatever. But I remember pretty soon after that came out, one of my friends who was really into hip hop, but like wasn't into synth, he goes, hey, you're into synthwave, right? I'm like, yeah, of course. He goes, okay, well, like I really like this song. Like, can you recommend me some? And I was like, yes, I can.
Yeah. See, that's awesome, and that's what I was saying, is that people just don't know it until they've heard it. And I think that there's good and bad examples of synthwave, and people are just kind of waiting to hear that sound. They hear a song like Blinding Lights, got a couple trillion streams or whatever it got, and that just blew it kind of wide open for more people to be exposed to it. And there's just so many new platforms, like TikTok and stuff, which I'm like just now starting to kind of dabble in, but it's just a whole other audience that hasn't even really been touched, and I think is looking for cool new stuff like that. I mean, there's definitely a thirst for that sort of nostalgia driven kind of music, and I don't know necessarily like why it is right now where it's having such a huge impact. I mean, I think that the state of the world probably has a little bit to do with it, wishing for better times and what have you. But I think that's awesome. Somebody hears a song on the radio and they're encouraged to reach out to their friend. They're like, do you have more of this? Like, can I hear more of this? And that to me is awesome. So that's the kind of people that I'm trying to gun for, or trying to reach. I think that is it's like the secret sauce that everybody's looking for is how do you reach those people. And I think that probably if we're talking about our scene here, the Midnight's probably the one group that's come closest to I think blowing that open. So could be a matter of time, could be just really huge and it goes mainstream completely, or it could just kind of remain the way that it is and grow slowly and organically. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too. I mean, I know like 2020 was just kind of a write-off year, but it was cool seeing how, like, pre-COVID, more and more people were starting to like tour and play live shows. Like, I mean, I remember it was such a huge deal. I think it was in late 2019 or so when like FM84 played a handful of shows, I think in California, and I think they actually did a full tour. And like, I know the Midnight did a tour because I got to see them in Buffalo. I guess, gosh, that was 2 years ago now. But yeah, like just like seeing more synthwave shows playing live, I think that definitely goes a long way in opening it up. Because obviously, like there'll be folks like us who like are obviously fans of it who'll go to it, but then there'll be people who are like, oh, this sounds interesting, I'll check this out, and then like they discover it for the first time like that. So yeah, I mean, hopefully as things hopefully calm down and more people start touring, I think that'll definitely open things up some more as well.
I hope so. I definitely hope so. Excuse me. Got a little frog in my throat there. I definitely hope so. And yeah, I mean, Midnight's, they're coming back through. I haven't bought tickets yet. I don't know if we're going to be able to this time around. It's unfortunate, but saw them the last time. And I think the only other synthwave show I've really seen besides them, the 2 times, was Carpenter Brute. Mm-hmm. But you go to those shows and like, they're selling out these places, and you're like, who are all these people? How do I get in touch with you? Like, how do we hang out? Obviously besides going up and talking to them, but like when you said that things are kind of insular, I think that goes to an extreme degree a little bit. Like with the Twitter community, like you said, basically everybody knows who each other is on some level. I mean, Tyler from the Midnight is on there having conversations with people all the time, and so is Tim. They know who people are, and they I think that's really cool, but it makes it tough to break outside of those walls that we have on our community, I think, at times. So that's really, I think, the challenge is you have a lot of these really awesome artists who are looking to grow, looking to kind of make synthwave a bigger thing than it is, and we're trying to figure out how to reach those other people. I think that'll probably always be a challenge, but I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think one of the big things too is like crossover appeals. Like you mentioned, like it's interesting you mentioned Carpenter Brute. So the only synthwave shows I've actually been to were the Midnight and Carpenter Brute, because he was an opener for Ministry. I guess it was December 2019. So like I saw, yeah. So I saw them here in Rochester, and it was just funny because he was actually the main reason I was going. Like, Ministry's cool, but I'm not really into them. So like, but yeah, it was really cool to see Carpenter Brute live, because like he also obviously has an awesome set.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's kind of that crossover appeal where like he appeal, like folks like him, like Perturbator, appeal to like synth fans, but also metal fans. Like I mean, like Perturbator's played at some of those big European metal fests, and I think he's playing at one next year as well. So yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about crossover appeal and opening up to other genres as well.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned the metal and synthwave thing, because I came from a metal background. I've talked to lots of artists who came from like a metal background or a heavier sort of background, whether it was metalcore or just like death metal. Like there's a lot of those same veins, I think, running through both kinds of music in a lot of ways, and that's what's great about it. And I wouldn't really consider myself to be strictly synthwave, I guess, in the most down to basics term. I definitely see myself as more of just an electronic musician that uses those synth elements and has that heavy nostalgia, forward vibe of it. Obviously, I embrace this community, and all the people that I work with are, embrace it as well, and are in varying shades of synthwave themselves. And I think that that's awesome. I mean, there's so many different places where one can draw influences from and use it to diversify the genre and reach new people. So I hope that people can tell that. Maybe it just sounds like synthwave to other people. I don't know.
No, that's a great point. That's it's funny too. I feel like I've talked to quite a few people who come from that metal background, where like you said, whether it's like metalcore, death metal, or just like straight heavy metal, etc. And then they get into synthwave. Like that's interesting how there's an overlap, because obviously there's going to be people who were like into the darker stuff, like Gregorio Franco. I mean, his most recent album was basically a death metal album, and it was all synthesized. Heavy. It was all synthesized, which was really fascinating.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was funny because I talked to him. I mean, like I talked to him a few weeks ago, and yeah, exactly. Like it was just seeing like that, but like seeing that background of like I guess like you said, there's just certain elements of certain elements that overlap with synth and metal. But then I guess kind of more to your point of like bringing in different other outside non-synth elements into it that helps diversify it. Because I don't know, like I guess kind of going back to the whole synthwave is dead thing. I mean, there is something to be said about like a lot of stuff kind of starting to sound the same, but like bringing in like new sounds and styles, I think is really going a long way to help like preserve and help it evolve and grow.
Absolutely, and yeah, those have been kind of the hot button issues in the scene recently. Is synthwave is dead and it all sounds the same. And I can tell you, and I don't really consider myself a curator by any means. I have a playlist. I spend time putting stuff on it. I put my friends on it. I put myself on it, and I try to get it out to people because I think that it's a cool playlist. One of the best ways to do that is to put a gate on it to get growth on it, so that if people want to submit to you, then they'll follow the playlist and then they can submit the song. So I think coming from the vantage point of I get a lot of tracks submitted to me every week, every other week. And yeah, there's definitely that sense. I think at this point, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm looking for when it comes to how something should sound, how it should be produced, and what the vibe is, how it's going to fit with the rest of the tracks on the playlist. And I rifle through a lot of stuff that is not quite ready yet. I won't say that it sucks. I won't say that it's just garbage, because that's not fair. Someone put effort into their music and into their art. It just means that it's not right for my playlist, or it doesn't fit my personal taste. And you end up, my point is that you end up seeing a lot of that sameness. And I'm sure that all of our radio station friends were starting to feel the same way. We know that was the case. It's just piles and piles of submissions with not a lot to take from it that is really promising. And I think that that's because we do kind of have that burst of artists right now, and have for a long time. And the scene has grown because I feel like more people have wanted to make synthwave. So you're really you're just talking to other synthwave producers when you're on Twitter and stuff, for the most part, right? And it gets a little tiring. And I think I don't blame those artists. Everybody's just trying to make their own way. Everybody's just trying to make their own art. But I think that they're taking it from the wrong place, their inspiration. I think maybe they have this template for what they think will be good synthwave, when they may not even know what makes a good song. And, I'm not saying that my songs are, instant classics or anything like that, but I've been playing music for a really long time. And that was the evolution to where I am now. I know that I'm not the strongest musician, but I've had a lot of practice songwriting. And some of these songs just need a little bit more time in the oven. Some of these artists just need a little bit longer to hone their craft. And I think that it can definitely get tiresome for the people who are here to help promote us and help the scene. Forever Synth just closed their doors, basically due to, I'm not going to speak for them, but, a lot of what I heard was that they just didn't find enough good reasons to keep the show going based off of what they were getting and what kind of support they were getting. So I think that is a problem that eventually we'll have to face. But at the end of the day, the artists that spend the most time honing their music and honing their craft, and not strictly worrying about pumping out as many singles as they possibly can and just flooding Spotify and the other streaming services with noise. I think those are the ones that are going to stick around, and really make a splash. So we'll see. We'll see who wins who comes out alive out of the synthwave wars, I guess.
Who's sitting on the neon throne and wins the game of the synth?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just imagine a bunch of Terminators shooting at each other, Judgment Day and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that though, because that just makes me think of I remember Tim from the Midnight saying that how he doesn't specifically set out to make synthwave. He just he just wants to create a mood, and that basically become synthwave. And I can see that a lot in your work as well, because listening to Dream recently, you do have your very specific style, but a lot of the songs have their own styles coming off that in themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at before. I'm very inspired by synthwave. I listen to a crap ton of synthwave. It's a huge passion of me, but I don't necessarily sit down and say, okay, this is going to be a synthwave song. Mm-hmm. I think, and that was part of my natural progression of, I used to write metal. Metal used to be what I lived and breathed, and that was all that came out of me when I wrote music. And then after a while, it diverged, and I started to write different types of things. And then that grew into this kind of divergent path. Metal was over here and electronic stuff was over here. And eventually, through lots of different circumstances, this path over here became the one that I really wanted to follow. And that just happens to be the mode, I guess, of how I write songs now. I don't naturally think of a metal song anymore. I naturally think of electronic music now. So that was just kind of that shift for me. And I think that's why you get what you get out of my music, is that I have a lot of different things swimming around inside my brain, a lot of different influences. And I just kind of set out to write a song that connects with me, and has a melody that connects with me. And I think that if it connects with me, then it'll probably connect to someone else too. And if it happens to sound like purely synthwave, then that's what it was. I mean, I think I have a couple, like, I guess, pure synthwave songs. Or if it comes out some other way, then that's okay too. Yeah, it's really just about, I love that, just creating a vibe and going for it. I think emotion really is central to what I want to do, and I want it to drive each and every song. And I think what I'm doing now for the newer album, or that'll come out at some point, I'm really solidifying what the theme is of the entire album. With Dream, it was kind of like my first album. It wasn't even going to be an album. It was going to be like a 5-song EP. And then it just, I kept writing, and I kept having more songs that I really liked. And then eventually I was just like, screw it, I'm going to make an album. And that's kind of what it turned into. So you have a little bit of a hodgepodge, I think, in terms of styles and sounds on that record. But the next one is much more centralized around a theme. And for all my vocalists that I'm collaborating with, I basically shared with them that theme and that specific emotion for that track. So each of the tracks will have something different in terms of emotions. Some will be very triumphant, some will be very sad, some will be very beautiful, some will be darker. And, present my collaborators with the theme and just let them run with that, because A, I'm a horrible lyricist, always have been. And B, I think that it's a really, really special thing to see what people think of that theme and how it connects to them and what they can do with it and what it means to them. So the stuff that I've been getting back so far has just been next level for sure. I'm so excited on it. It's going to take however long to finally put it together, but really excited on it. And hold on one second. I'm going to turn a light on so I'm not.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, it seems like it was getting darker.
Yeah. Yeah, there's light in the room when the sun is passing, but it's pretty gray and cloudy out. So I was going for a mood, and then just got a little bit too dark. So I'm back.
You're good. Yeah, well, it's actually, it's interesting. Speaking of that kind of like cloudy gray thing, like again, listening to Dream, that was kind of the impression I got was like, a lot of it was very evocative of just like gray skies, not necessarily like sad or like depressing, but just that kind of distinct mood of like brainstorms and just that, I guess that sort of specific sort of atmosphere, where it's like gray and cloudy, but like it's like it's just, I don't know, I guess it's I'm having a hard time articulating that, but yeah, just like,
sure,
yeah, gray rainy, but still like beautiful and like almost kind of neon, is just because like you've got the synth element. So yeah, so that'll be interesting to see like how that develops into the next one.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting you say that, because I mean, I think that came down to the imagery that I used in like promotion and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like I was, pretty intentional about that. Me and Christian, Shadowrunner, we worked on Borealis. That was the second single from the album. Phoenix was the first, and that was last December. It's crazy to think that I've really only been doing this for like a year. But we released Borealis in February and made a music video for it and everything. And I remember just being like so enthralled with the atmosphere that we were able to put together. And what I really loved about it was that we kind of took synthwave out of the city, out of the neon lights, out of the fast cars and palm trees and everything else, and we kind of took it back to something a little bit more human, a little bit more natural. And I really, really like that. And I think that that's something that I'll probably stick close to for a long time, because that's what appeals to me a lot more. Not that I don't love the aesthetic in general. Obviously, it was a big part of what drew me to synthwave, but I love just going back to having emotion being the driving factor right there. You know, it's not necessarily wishing for better times or remembering those times like the 80s or anything like that. It's really just about whatever makes you nostalgic and whatever makes you emotional and whatever you can connect to. And so that's why you have lyrics that are very real. They're about real life things, and they're raw. And I intentionally used stuff that was kind of drab, rainy, a little melancholy, but also lots of beautiful stuff, lots of real people and things like that. Borealis, the music video, was obviously just a shit ton of borealises, like, and it was just really awesome, just sort of panoramic through a bunch of nature shots. And to me, that really worked, not that I wouldn't ever go and like lean into the other side of the aesthetic. I definitely have, but I think that more real, honest side really connects with me. And not great. kind of had this same sort of conversation with Karin from Night Ride, and she was like, you're like the new emo, like the synthwave emo, because the songs are so emotional and they're kind of sad and emo like. And I think that rain and gray clouds and a dark beach and things like that are, I guess you could maybe connect it back to emo or something like that. But I think that it's just, I like to find the beauty in things like that, like an overcast day like it is today. Like, I find that beautiful. Rain, I find the sound of falling rain super beautiful, and like the stillness after the rain's done falling. Like, I love stuff like that. So I think, and that reflects the album a little bit too. There's some very uplifting stuff there, and there's some very reflective and sadder stuff there. So it's just about seeing the different shades of gray in our lives, I guess. Yeah,
that's a great way to put it. Because absolutely. I mean, like Borealis especially, that was like that was really one of the standout tracks. And like it really does have that sort of like melancholy, but like there's still like beauty to be found vibe to it, which I really like. And this, it's interesting too, actually, what you're saying about how like the album cover, like the promotional art you were putting together kind of drove that. Because I think that was definitely kind of a driving factor, because like the cover for Dream, it's that kind of like gray blue, and it has like the angular elements kind of reminiscent of like mountains and like clouds and that kind of thing. So I mean, it's cool how you basically like put that all together in one big package.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody likes it. Just because that'll probably continue to be how I kind of go about things. It makes more sense for me, how I kind of view my music and how I view my own personality, and what works best for me. I don't think that I would be very happy trying to just fit into that same sort of Tetris block space as so many other artists have. Like, there's other artists that will do it a hell of a lot better than I am, and I would just like to stick with what works for me. And I think that I'll continue to evolve. One thing I'm starting to think of, is getting into that visual sense of what the next, generation of music is going to really look like. And like I said, just very excited for the music side of things, but I'm hoping, I do most of the design work myself. I have since the beginning, but I think that it might be a good time to start maybe looking outside of that and working with some other people to kind of create that design sense for the next album and for the next wave of music. just because collaboration is something that's really close, I think, to the core of what this project is, of what Jacket is. Like, I love working with other people. I love having featured artists on these songs. I love writing these songs with these other people. It's just one of the best things about making music, I think, is getting to vibe like that with other talented people and then share it with other people. So the main reason I haven't with the art thus far is mainly monetary. You know, I work a full-time job. Me and my wife both do, and synthwave and music is a passion for me, but it's ultimately a side gig. It's a side hustle, and would be awesome for it to be something more than that. But I'm perfectly content with how it is. But I spent money on getting stuff printed, getting CDs printed. That was my investment that I chose to make. I said, hey, I'm going to do all the art myself. I'm going to do everything else myself, work with friends on mixing and mastering, and try and really slap it together in a DIY sort of way. And that'll be it. And then I'll print CDs because I've never done that before. And that'll be my memento of this album. But I think going into the next one, I'd really like those mementos to be all the work that went into it for, with other people, and how it came from where I was to where it will be. So I'm excited to see what happens. Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, that's one of the things too that I really appreciate about Synthwave and the whole scene is that DIY element, because yeah, like with a lot of folks, like it's just like them doing the whole thing. So like that's really cool how you've embraced that, but also like I actually did that was one of the things that I kind of wanted to touch on, was some of your collaborations, because like I know like you collaborated with like Peacecraft and Arcadia, like you mentioned Shadowrunner.
Mm-hmm.
So who I know like you mentioned some collaborations for the next album, but kind of keep that down low. But who are some folks who you want to collaborate with? Like who's kind of like your collaboration wish list?
So I'm super happy to say that I did knock a couple of them out on the new album.
Cool.
So that's cool. So I won't say anything else about that, because I definitely want those to reveal themselves in due time. But I definitely, there's a lot of artists that are very respected and are bigger than I am, and have wonderful brands, but are still very approachable and seem like people that I could work with. I think Nina would be probably at the top of that list. I've always wanted to work with Nina. She's just a great artist, and I think that we would make a lovely song together. Dana Jean Phoenix would have to be another one. I would love to work with her. I'm trying to think of anybody who's like kind of outside of what people know and what I can actually talk about. I would love to work with Shadowrunner again.
Mm-hmm.
Borealis is just, I'm so very, very proud of that song and the work that we put into it. And it's hands down, both of ours, probably one of our most successful songs. So would definitely love to work with him again and try and get some more magic on a track. Everybody else, I'm just like, if we're talking about a dream list, I mean, it would be great to work with, Tim or Tyler from the Midnight would be absolutely awesome. Josh Daly from At 1980 and Time Cop would be really, really awesome. Drive works with this guy named Father Dude on a lot of his tracks, and he just has this great sort of Chromeo-esque type style, and I would love to work with him on something. I usually think about it in terms of people who I'm like, do I have a realistic shot with talking to them and maybe broaching the subject? I don't know. I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat, I think, when it comes to actually reaching out to people, you know. But I did do it a couple times. So I'm really, there's some great collabs that are going to be on this next album. Really, really excited for people to learn more about it and to share more about it. So yeah, I'm proud to say that I was able to knock off a couple off my wish list with this next one.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really great to hear, because yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next album. I mean, Dream was great, and you know what you're saying about having like, you know, more of like a focused sound, but also just like developing it further. Like I'm really interested to see where you go with that.
Yeah, with Dream, you know, like I said, I've only really been doing this about a year, a little over a year, as far as Jacket is concerned, obviously. But a lot of the songs on Dream were just bits and pieces from that year. It was kind of like the diary of my first year as a producer, really, you know. And it was me trying a lot of different things and different sounds, and you know, throwing ideas at the wall and seeing which one stuck. And so you kind of had this, like I said before, this hodgepodge of tones and themes and things like that. And it's a great album to have on shuffle, just because they all kind of fit together like that, I guess. But a lot of the songs that are on this new wave are things that I've written also over the past year, but they were like, that was the true kind of me realizing, okay, I have this set of songs that let me experiment and figure out what my sort of brand was going to be, what my style was going to be. And now I have this new batch, which is, just much more focused. I can say that I'm at least a tiny bit better as a producer. So hopefully there will be some cool production stuff in there. And it feels more like a whole, I guess, is my best way that I can say it. So it just is me kind of stepping into my own, I think, a little bit. I don't really know what else, really to say about it, other than that there are some eclectic sounds, I think. I definitely am not going to stop trying new things, but the core sound is really there. The things the instrumentation that I use, I'm really starting to figure out what my favorites are, and what I can go to, and what I can put together that'll sound like me, that'll sound like Jacket. So hopefully people kind of get that and notice not only that the theme is really strong in the next group of musics, next group of musics, but that the sound is there to back it up too. So it's just kind of more of everything.
Yeah, that sounds really great. I mean, you've definitely established your own style, so it'll be cool to see further. Just like I said, just further like hone and like polish and perfect that.
Yeah, and I kind of thought that I wouldn't really ever do albums. There's a lot of arguments to be made that it's not a smart model and that nobody listens to albums anymore. And I think that that's, bullshit as far as art, especially as far as like synthwave fans are concerned, because people will listen to an album, they will buy an album, they'll listen. Like that's kind of the experience that they're there for, I think. And that releasing singles is a totally viable option. We start to get into that territory where we feel like we're getting oversaturated and we are overburdening our lovely online radio show hosts. There's just so many new releases that it can be really hard to keep up with. So I think for me, like, working towards an album will probably always be what I do. I might release 2, 3, 4 singles before that album, but it'll always be working towards an album. And I just didn't think that was how it was going to be. And now I'm like, I just want to work on albums, it's just such a fun process, and there's so much music there to unpack. It gives a better feeling of satisfaction, I think, at the end, to really to put an album into the world. And some of them are going to be loved more than others, and that's just the way of things. But the entire set is there for people to enjoy if they want to. So
yeah, that's a great way to look at it, because like, albums definitely aren't dead. Like I know there'll be times. I mean, I have my big playlist, and I always have it on shuffle. But like there are times where like a song comes on, and it's like, oh wait, I need to go. I need to like stop, and like listen to this album and like listen to the whole thing, because like you said, it's an experience. Like the way they're crafted, the way like, I mean, I like even before I got into Synth, I remember thinking how big of a deal it was whenever bands and artists would put together albums, and like they order them in a certain way. And yeah, because like you said, it's an experience. So like, no, I think that is something that's important, really. So yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you on that.
I think something visual and something you can really immerse yourself in is what is craved by a lot of people, and not just in synthwave, but I still believe that there are lots and lots of people who love to listen to an album. They might not be, our age, so to speak, people who don't like to listen to albums, but people closer to our age remember when albums were a thing and still look for it. So that just goes again to our scene and the people that are in it. It's like catering to a completely different audience than if you're trying to reach that broader, spectrum of people and demographics. So that I think that's what makes it hard to figure out how to best market yourself as a musician nowadays, especially a synthwave musician who thinks that they're good enough to be heard by other people, outside of synthwave. It's just hard to kind of crack that code. And a release schedule has a lot to do with that. People who, America is the only place that uses the generational thing, I feel like. But, Zoomers, people who are in the generation below us, they grew up on that fast information, gratification. So singles make total sense. If you can release a single every month and keep people engaged, then that makes total sense. But I think that it's just a happy medium of finding what works for you as an artist. If you just want to release singles, that is totally cool. That's what I thought I was going to do, because I thought that would be the way to do it, if I was going to reach more people. But I think after writing an album, it was just such an awesome experience. Like, it was just, like I said, more satisfying, I think, that way. For me creatively, so that's a totally viable option as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's absolutely something to be said to have like this like full finished product, because I mean, like I know, like as an artist, I can definitely understand that. I mean, like, obviously I'm a visual artist, but yeah, like once you finish like a big, like, once you finish a big project and you have this like big tangible result, like it's such a cool feeling when you're totally satisfied with it and it's done and it's like, I made this is so cool. So yeah, I absolutely know what you mean about that, about like, you finish like a full album, and just how like creatively fulfilling that is.
Yeah, and for me personally, I think it gives me more of a chance to hone the craft more if I write more songs.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it is for me. I get better at songwriting and producing this type of music the more times I do it. So you can have a song that you spend a ton of time on, you make it sound absolutely perfect, and then you release it, but then that's kind of it. And you have opportunities to improve, I think, throughout the process of writing a song. But for me, completing a song and then starting a new one with the lessons that you took, that's really awesome. And some artists might just have a stockpile of singles that they're just, they already got good 2 years ago because they've had all these singles lying around. But yeah, I think for me, it's practice makes perfect, or at least practice makes improvement. And that just seems to be what works with me. And it gives me more time to actually get better at music, which that's what it really comes down to, is if you spend time on your craft, if you work hard at getting better and getting critique and getting feedback, and you are able to take that and mold it into improvements for yourself, that's really what it comes down to. Because if there's one thing that all of the bigger artists in the scene have in common, it's typically quality. It's typically they're operating at a certain level of production know-how and songwriting know-how that they've learned over years and years and years. And they're able to produce a certain quality of music, and people hear that. That's what I look for. So you're really looking for that quality product. You know it when you hear it, and that's usually the ones that end up sticking around. So it's crucial to get feedback. It's crucial to want to improve. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, always work to improve and move forward.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, before we wrap up here, was there anything else you wanted to add or promote or anything?
Well, if there's a lot of new music coming, we'll leave it general like that. There's a lot of new music coming, both at the time of this recording and the time that it will air.
Yeah.
So I will just leave it at that. I will probably try and take some time away from everything in the holidays, kind of get some rest and relaxation. But after that's finished, it's going to be full steam ahead in getting all this new music out, because there's a bunch, and I'm just really excited for everybody to see who the collaborations are, and get their thoughts on the new stuff and the next wave of Jacket.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. I'm really excited to hear some of those collaborations. So yeah, that sounds like 2022 is going to be a good year for you.
I think so. I'm feeling really good about it.
All right, cool. Well, Jacket, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Patrick. I really appreciate it. It was fun talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. All right, cool. Well, have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
Thanks for watching. That was my conversation with Jacket. Be sure to check him out on Bandcamp, Spotify, and more. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram, as well as check out his curated Synthwave playlist on Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @PatrickKingArt. Be sure to check out the Synthwave Ultra playlist on Spotify for tons and tons of synthwave of every kind. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to this channel for more great synthwave conversations. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Synthwave Ultra.